Hello, everybody. My name is Drew Dosek, and welcome to Trading the Close. Today, we saw a light volume float all up until about the last 20 minutes of the day. And right now, the stocks markets are just selling. S&P 500, two big red 10-minute candles on the charts. We also did see earnings from Delta Airlines, and that really helped propel all of the other airlines as Delta Airlines beat on earnings and on revenue. And then on top of it, they said that the consumers are back and ready to travel. That was a little bit different of a message from about 6 months ago or 3 months ago on last earnings. So Delta Airlines and the rest of the airline companies are all excelling today. Let's jump into the market summary to see where we're at and at the close for today. So as we see here, we've got Dow Jones Industrial up 0.34%, NASDAQ now up 0.21%, S&P 500 up 2.26%, U.S. oil now down 2.04%, gold is up 0.34%, and Bitcoin making a monumental push, running right into resistance, but still up 1.95% on the day. Great move on that cryptocurrency. So we get into the heat map here for the S&P 500. We see a lot of green on the screen, although there are some red key players here. Netflix being one of them, down 2.91% on the day. CRM, Salesforce, down 2.74%. And then we also have Meta down 0.67%. Microsoft down 0.37%. And then we also have here CrowdStrike down 5.11%. Decent drop there on it. Apple, though, holding up well, as well as NVIDIA up slightly more than 0.5%. AVGO down 0.9%. All right, so into the S&P 500. And folks, we've been saying this almost like a broken record. Continue to push up on the charts and be in extended territory. Right now, if you zoom in on this area right here on the RSI, you can see we're starting to have some divergence on the RSI. We've made a higher high today, and yet the RSI is lower on the chart. So important to note right here, albeit very small, it is starting to show signs of further downside in the near term. Will we continue up? We could, and we very well could tag the next area of resistance. Notice how many times this area has been hit. Well, first, when we came back underneath it, tagged it here, eventually came up, tagged it for a second time, and then tagged it for a third time just on July 3rd. If we tag this area again on the 4th, it could be vulnerable for a break. But with what I see on the RSI and this extended move, even if it does break, it will be short-lived and likely start coming back, at very least consolidating, but more likely pulling back to this 59.42 level on the charts. Next up, the QQQ also into resistance. This did not make a higher high today. As you see here on the charts, price action really kind of chopped around in yesterday's price action. So not much new to report on the Qs, except for that they are overbought and right next to resistance. You can see this on this long-term trend line right here. Price action is stalling out right here. The more it consolidates, the more likely it could still go higher. So we'll see how long this consolidation takes place. Next up, the SMH. Now, I mentioned yesterday, if you recall, yesterday I was talking about how SMH were really just getting right here to the very pinnacle of this wedge. There's really only a couple ways it could go. It could go higher or lower. But I said one way it could go higher is gapping up above the level. And it did that today. That freed up space for it to go higher, but it didn't go that much higher. And we're going to show you what gaps were made today, especially on the airlines, and what happens to those type of moves usually whenever they gap over resistance. Now, this one was a double gap over resistance. We have this yellow trend line strung out from previous pivots here on the chart, and then we also have this inclining parallel. So price gapped over both of those resistance levels. Normally that would result in an accelerating move higher. This did not do that today. We pushed a little bit higher and really kind of faltered right here at yesterday's highs. A very weak breakout attempt at the moment. All in all, extended move, likely should be getting rejected in the next coming days. IWM, nice continued move on this index again today. Notice yesterday we closed above this declining trend line, and then today confirmed above it. That just shows the forward momentum strength on IWM. Small cap stocks have really been taking off, and it's displayed right here on the charts. So with this now breaking and confirming, that makes this trend line support currently around 222.77. However, since we've now broken through this trend line and not retested it, now we're breaking through this. I think a further retest and pullback is due on this chart, likely piercing this trend line, coming down roughly right around 216 to 211. That will be the zone of support for another attack and move higher on this chart. This chart, as extended as it is, needs to cool off a little bit before going higher, much like this cool off period right here. Just a little pullback into support and then continue moving higher on the IWM. Next up, Bitcoin. I mentioned earlier how Bitcoin did make a monumental push, pushing to brand new all-time highs. Nicely done on this chart. We were tracking this here with this bull flag pattern, continued move through this resistance. And then today, it looks like right now we're currently trading above it. We'll see if we close above it tonight at 8 o'clock. But if I zoom into the 10-minute chart, you can see right here on this trend line where price interacted with it. And also notice what happened before price got to the trend line. You see here, we moved up, consolidated, and then broke through. So what it did here is it started to gain momentum. It gained more strength, consolidating just underneath a resistance trend line, which allowed it to break through here. But then ultimately it came back and retested the scene of the crime where it just broke out and then continued pushing higher on the charts. Great breakout for Bitcoin here. What we need to do is see if we close above this tonight at 8 o'clock. If so, that does increase the probabilities for us to move up to the next stop at 118,717 on the chart. Next up, we've got gold. Not too much new to report here on gold. We're really just pushing slightly higher on the charts, all in all making this consolidation here on the chart. So we could go either way. It's really a no touch right now at this current state with consolidation. We're either going to start bull flagging and move higher. Next resistance area will be these pivot tops, followed by the measured move at 36.21, or we can pull back down at 32.42. If the markets continue to push higher, the likelihood for gold to come in increases as there will be less demand and interest for gold. Next up, we've got silver. Silver remains in the spotlight, and you've got to understand silver also has a component that contributes to our AI data centers. All of our computers, a lot of our electronics all have silver in them, and they're starting to actually use more and more silver. That's because these data centers are being built out all over the world. It's truly incredible, the demand of silver that keeps increasing. Thus, we see bullish consolidation here on the charts. I'll remind you of the weekly pattern, nice bullish consolidation. That should lead to a measured move up here to 38.97 in the near to midterm for silver. Next up, U.S. oil. U.S. oil, notice this pattern here as we've been talking about over the past week or so. Down move, sideways consolidation. That's all bearish consolidation for a move lower on the charts. First speed bump is going to be here at 63.86, followed by 62.37, and then lastly down here around $60.79 on the chart. Next up, Nat Gas. Nat Gas had a nice bounce today, and it did so just prior to the support area at $3.13. If you recall back on the Bitcoin chart, what happens when price consolidates right above or below a level, it means it likely will start going lower and pierce it. So if we have price remain in this general area, chop around within this red candle over the next day or two, the price on Nat Gas is going to break through the support at 313 and then come to the next area support, which is basically right at the $3 flat area. Next up, we've got Delta. Now, Delta, as I mentioned before, had earnings. They beat on both earnings per share as well as revenue, and their guidance was good, saying that the traveler is back and the consumer is back. They're just booking flights a lot shorter out from their flight time than normal. So they're still getting some uptick in bookings over the summer, which is great for them, and the stock really rocketed higher. Now, notice what happened here. We had a declining trend line here, holding price down. Yesterday's price action closed right here in the $50.60 range. And then what did we do today? We gapped up over resistance, which is a river theory play. And look at the excelled move that we had here on Delta Airlines. If I zoom into the 10-minute chart, you can see here price, this resistance area was tagged much like the Bitcoin chart, right? We went up above it, came back to the scene, went up above it, came back to support, and are now settling in at the end of the day just above this resistance area here on the chart. So a couple things Delta can do from this point on. Since it did break above, we want to see a confirmation move above to then declare that this trend line is major support. Even with this big of move, this area likely still will be decent support, considering it does have all these pivots and also a gap fills just around $50.71. So I would watch for any pullbacks, as those could be buying opportunities on Delta Airlines. UAL also did excel today on the back of news from Delta's earnings, but notice a similar thing happened here on this chart. We had another gap up above resistance, which freed up space for UAL to continue pushing higher on the charts. This was really a remarkable 10-minute push. Look at this pattern right here on the chart. This is just diagonally straight up, no pullbacks. Very unusual for stocks to do that, especially considering the tight range of each one of these candles. And then finally, pressure broke towards the end of the day, and we did have some sort of correction and profit taking come in. Still, though, UAL does report earnings in just, I think, 6 days or so. You can see it right here, Wednesday, July 16th. So that's right, in 6 days they will report. We'll likely see a lot more volatility come that day, but we'll see if we move any higher. This was a nice move up on UAL. Notice 14.33% today of a move up. Maybe all of any of the good news in earnings is already baked in to the current price action that we're at right now. Next up, we've got Southwest Airlines, LUV, on the daily time frame. Notice today a very similar pattern occurred. All three of these airline stocks gapped above the resistance, which freed up room for the price to move higher on the charts. Notice that opened right here around 35.50 and then is now closing the day nearly $2 higher, at basically $1.80 higher at $37.35. Great move on Southwest Airlines, up 8.14% on the day. So where does that lead us to next? If you look here on this chart, Southwest has a lot of room to run. The high pivots are up here all the way around $60, nearly doubling current price. So we can run a lot further on Southwest if these airlines do start getting more full and have more foot traffic. So next area of resistance is going to be $39.53. Watch for any pullbacks along this trend line for buying opportunities for an excelled move up higher on LUV. Next up, VRT. Now, VRT fell because Amazon Web Services unveiled a new liquid cooling system for AI data centers. And you can see here, first thing in the morning, look at the selling pressure on VRT. What a mammoth drop this had, and tagged support perfectly, creating a 10-minute bottoming tail. And then look at that amazing rebound that occurred on the day. So right here, what this tells me, though, there's still a ton of interest in investors for buying and gobbling up VRT. Even though Amazon Web Services put a little dent in its armor, or kink in its armor, if you will, with this big sell today, where did price close? Still within this range. So this was basically just a test candle testing the 111.44 support, but also notice what happens when price comes up into resistance. Typically, it results in nice pullbacks. This is what I'm anticipating with the SMH, is what I'm anticipating with the SPX, with the QQQ, you name it. Most all of these indices are right into resistance, and typically this is the sort of response we see whenever we tag that area of resistance. Amazing fall there on VRT. Next up, we've got Atlassian, TEAM on the charts. Another big fall today on the charts. This was monumental. This was due mainly to two insiders selling stock, two executives which are 10% owners of the company, sold around $1.6 million of stock each. So totaling around $3.2 million worth of stocks sold. However, that was both less than 1% of that of those executives' holdings. They have over 470,000 shares remaining each. So if they just sold 7,600 shares and still have 467,000 or 467,000 to 475,000 shares, they still have a boatload of shares. This isn't a major issue for the stock. A lot of executives do sell stock from time to time. You have to always keep in mind what quantity of shares they have left over. In this instance, each of these executives only sold about 1% of their stake in the company. That's not that big of a deal. When they're selling 40, 50, 60% of their stake, that's starting to raise flags for me. So this drop, I think, is a little over exaggerated. Next area of support is going to be this inclining trend line right here, basically at 189, followed by 176.10. That would be a good opportunity to get into TEAM for a reattack of this declining trend line that we see here on the chart. Notice it's only been hit twice. So the very next time, it likely will get rejected, but it still could attempt to break out and then eventually get to this 231.73. Big sell for what I see is not that big of a deal there for TEAM. Next up, Autodesk, ADSK. Now, Autodesk fell on news of a potential buyout of PTC. So sometimes when stocks and companies do buy out other companies, they're going to be acquiring their debt. Thus, you do see some selling pressure enter the stock that is buying or acquiring the other company. As we see here, we do have our next level of support down here at 275.90, followed by 265.70. But still, mammoth fall that you see here that's really accelerated yesterday and today. We'll see if we get another 3-bar or another red candle sell, which would then be a 3-bar surge right into support, which would be a great buying opportunity for a very quick near-term bounce on ADSK. Lastly, we've got SUI. Now, this was one of the top performers in altcoins today with in the top 100 mega caps, or top 100 caps, excuse me. So you see here the beautiful move up, 11.22% on the charts, running right into resistance in this chop that we see here. That should be overcome with this continued momentum. The next major area of resistance that I'm focusing in on the charts is going to be this $3.76 area. Right here, formulated from this declining trend line that we see here on the charts. And also notice this trend line has already been hit 3 times, which does say there's a higher probability of us breaking through this. So this is a great move on SUI, one that looks like it won't be stopping anytime soon. Nice move on SUI. All right, guys, that wraps up trading the close. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll have some more details and everything for new plays, new stocks, and support levels next week on Monday. But if you want to draw these trend lines, find these support areas on your own, do yourself a favor. Take advantage of our educational courses we have. My course, Mastering the Overnight Trade, the Sleeper Hold, goes through all the levels, how to do everything I do on the charts and display to you, but you can do them on your favorite stocks that you have right in your comfort of your own home. Till then, guys, take care. I'll see you on Monday. Have a good one.
Hey guys, Lawton here with Verified Investing, and I am so excited to announce our brand new partnership with Kinesis. Kinesis is a revolutionary concept. They're able to create cryptocurrency that's tied directly to gold and silver in the form of KAU and KAG. You can send in your gold or silver and convert that directly into tradable currency. Another thing you can do is buy their gold. You can convert your US dollars or whatever currency you want into KAU and KAG. You can withdraw that and actually receive physical gold and physical silver. This is absolutely revolutionary. We know with how volatile everything is, it's important to have things grounded in silver and gold, and Kinesis is a great way to do that without the risk of having to go out and buy gold and silver bars yourself. They also have a trading platform directly linked with TradingView that I advise you all to check out. Thank you so much to Kinesis for sponsoring Verified Investing.